Mm. Hey everybody, welcome to the Fear the Fincast. It is 8:30 p.m. on a rainy Tuesday evening in Southern California. I actually don't know, is it raining in Northern California?
We did yesterday. It didn't. I don't think it did today. March
Okay, I'm March.
21st,
Yeah,
2017.
I was just gonna hit it.
There you go.
We were gonna get angry emails about that, but I didn't say what day it was. Uh,
Probably the best piece of feedback we've ever gotten on anything we've done was say the date in the podcast. So we're both like, oh, yeah, that
oh
actually
yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
huh? That's actually better. Yeah, you bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
I'm Jacob Sutter. We're here with Marcus White, also staff writer at Fear the Fin. Hey, the Sharks have lost 4 games in a row. That's not so good. It's a long week. I don't
It's
know. I don't know who's scheduled up this week, which is something that every fan of every NHL team is saying after this week.
DeBoer joked in an interview with NHL.com. He's like, yeah, I think he's like, he theorized that this was like the last week they scheduled for like in the NHL in general, and they're just like, okay, like whatever, like
Eh,
Go to Dallas twice on one road trip. Who cares?
and what's funny is that like there have been times in where the Sharks will do that like home and home against Vancouver. Like that's happened every
Yes.
single year for as long as I can remember. And it kind of feels like they're doing that, and they're like, huh. You remember how we've done that stupid thing, that Vancouver thing? It's like, yeah, we kind of do that, but they do Dallas twice, and it's like, hey, pass that over here,
Yeah,
baby. Pass
that's
that
good.
over here. And it's like, yeah, let's do that.
The good stuff. Yeah,
And
no,
it's just,
it's an odd scheduling decision, but you know, in the same interview, he said every team in the NHL has dealt with like bad travel weeks like this all year, so we don't really have a huge right to complain. But it hasn't helped them on the ice, as you mentioned. They've now lost four straight. Didn't play.
a road back to back at
It's
any
tough.
time, I think should not happen
It's tough.
in a modern sports
Unless,
league.
yeah, I agree. I think the only time it's remotely defensible is LA to Anaheim or New York
Right.
to New Jersey or like in the Northeast, like in those cities that are so close to each other where it's not necessarily like,
Or it's
you know,
either theoretically not a flight.
they got into the hotel last night at like 2 a.m. flying from
Ridiculous.
Dallas to Minnesota. That's ridiculous.
Right.
I agree. I don't think back to back. I mean, you're seeing it talked about more now in basketball. I don't think back to back should be a thing in those sports. Baseball still makes some sense to me, like that they can play multiple games in a span of days. But yeah, no, I agree. But if they were to have back to backs, and maybe this is something the union can collectively bargain, is like only schedule them for California. But then again, you're going to have teams saying, "Oh, well, that's an unfair advantage." But there should be some like flight radius. Like it can't be. You can't have a back to back in a city that's longer than an hour away by like train or flight. You know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and this is something that I think is getting talked about more, especially in the NBA, where players are getting rested for games.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why the issue is getting forced. And the reason the issue isn't going to get forced in the NHL for two reasons: because we have a crappy culture in the NHL where players are quote unquote too tough to take days off, and because the NHL Players Association is so weak that they will never ever have the bargaining power to get fewer games.
I think they're in a stronger union position than they.
Listen, okay, let's back it up for a second. Let's go to the last couple of lockouts. What has the NHL gained in any of those lockouts? Except, wait, no, you're right. They got a really, really nice vacation twice.
What's that?
Oh, okay, well that's a low bar,
No, it is, but
listen,
I think Donald Fair is.
they tried to get something in the first lockout. They lost an entire season and got almost nothing. They
Right.
tried to do it again, lost half of the season and got virtually nothing.
Right.
They got basically, and I do mean, and listen, I know that this sounds extreme, but they got literally almost the exact same deal. They just got it 4 months later.
I don't remember what their
they got some stuff. They got a little bit of stuff. But listen, the big win this year that they got was this bye week.
Yeah.
And listen, my point being that I don't think like something big, like listen, the schedule going from fewer than 82 games is a huge thing.
I still think I think though, if push came to shove, like because Donald Fair's the union head and people have long memories with these, labor stoppages, and they remember the strike, the players striking in the middle of a season. I don't know if hockey players would ever do that because of the culture of hockey, but I think the owners have that fear in the back of their mind that, if they coming up maybe after, before the next Olympics, the players don't like it. Donald Fair could could get them to strike. But I also don't think that's a very realistic likelihood. I just think that and then speculation hat on firmly, I think the owners are tentative. That's their only fear, really.
Fair enough. Listen, so we talked about this a little bit before the show, that despite losing 4 games in a row, I feel like the Sharks haven't played as terribly as you would think I guess for any team. Yeah, you lose 4 games in a row, and something's not working. Obviously,
right.
It feels like to me in these 4 games, the only game where I really have been really disappointed in the effort is the St. Louis game, a game where I felt like they played just absolutely terribly. The other 3 games, I feel like they've played okay at worst. I feel like in though that 3-game span, tonight's game was the most disappointing.
Yes.
For a couple of reasons. And it makes perfect sense. This is a game that's, I think if just on paper, this is a scheduled loss, just period, right? It's a road back-to-back against a good team that's on a 5-game losing streak of their own. So listen, there's a lot of narrative stuff kind of at play here that leads to you thinking, listen, this is a game the Sharks are not supposed to win. Edward Vlasic doesn't play because of the flu. Yannick Hansen is still out of the lineup. Melker Karlsson is out of the lineup.
Yep.
Now I'm going to put the speculation hat on for a second. Chris Tierney misses the game last night because of the flu. It is not unreasonable to think that other guys are sick on the Sharks team right now. In fact, I'd say pretty reasonable. So listen, even if we assume every other guy on the team is healthy, this is not a game the Sharks are going to win 9 times out of 10. I would say it's a 1-goal loss.
Yeah.
One of those goals at least is an awful goal by Martin Jones. One of the goals is a power play goal, and the other one is, I don't know, a little bit fluky. So, to me, it's you watch.
Which one do you think was awful? The Coyle one or the Hansel one?
The one that comes from behind the goal line.
Yeah, the Hansel one. Yeah, he didn't hug the post tight enough there. Yeah.
Which again, spoiler alert, is something Martin Jones does on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's something we've noticed.
I mean, but again, that's one bad goal that Martin Jones lets up out of the bajillion of amazing saves that he makes on a regular basis. So
yeah, he made. I thought he denied Koivu in front.
Right.
It all evens.
I'm not pinning the game on Martin Jones. They were going to lose the game most of the time anyway. So I'm just saying, I just have a really hard time getting worked up about this loss. That if I look at this game, even on the calendar, at the beginning of the season, it's like, oh, they're going to lose this game, most of the time. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I think it's nothing to fret too much about. The biggest concern, of course, though, is the timing of it. Had the Sharks not lost 2 games before coming into this back-to-back, I would have been like, okay, they played tough in Dallas, should have won that game, lost tonight on the second half of back-to-back, whatever. But because they lost those previous 2 games, and again, played great against Anaheim, were not very good against St. Louis. That's where I think some of the causes for concern come into play. But I think they're still at a good enough spot. They're not going to miss the playoffs. They've still got 4. They're still 4 points up in the division. I don't know if Edmonton's in action tonight, but Edmonton has a game in hand. So, but they're going to have opportunities against every team in their division. They're going to play a bunch of 4-point games here throughout the rest of the season. They're still going to have Vancouver a couple of times. They've got another tough back-to-back on this coming weekend, and I think they're going to be disappointed with anything less than 3 points. But I'm hesitant, even with how close it is, because I've seen them go on small losing streaks like this before the playoffs and end up largely fine. I'm hesitant to press the panic button at this point. Now, if they lose 2 more games in a row on the back-to-back this weekend, I think it's you're right. People are right to be alarmed.
I think, to me, again, it's not about, and I wrote about this morning, it's not the losing that should concern people, right? It's the way that the team is playing. And I think that, again, that goes beyond just the number of goals that they're scoring on a nightly basis. Brent Burns has been held off the score sheet now for what? Is it 6 games now? 5 games? 7 games, yeah. The dude is attempting as many shots as he has been in any of the previous games. And if you actually watch him play, there's nothing different.
Yeah, it's just not going.
They're just not going in. And I went back even before I wrote the post yesterday. I was kind of thinking about maybe I should write about Brent Burns. Is there something interesting here that's like worth noting? There's nothing interesting. Nothing is different. It's exactly.
I'm still going to write about it.
Listen, it's good content.
Yes,
I love the good content. My point is that it's just sometimes these slumps happen, and sometimes it's just coming at a bad time.
Yeah.
I just feel like that there are legitimate problems for the Sharks right now, and I think we should talk about them. One of the biggest concerns to me is that the Vlasic and Braun pairing hasn't been very good recently, and I know we've kind of talked about that. That's a major cause for concern because that's a pairing that's going to be leaned on a lot in the playoffs. Joe Thornton hasn't played very well. I mean, that's, I think, something that needs to be talked about. The power play obviously hasn't been good. Whether or not that's really that's not to me a top level concern. That's more
that's
like
not as big a concern as the other two.
The two biggest concerns are that Joe Thornton hasn't been very good and Vlasic and Braun haven't been very good. Those are the Sharks' big concerns. The big concerns to me are not whether or not, I don't really care if the Sharks win the division. I don't really care if the Sharks have home ice in the playoffs. You know why? Because guess what? The Sharks didn't win the division last year, and the Sharks didn't have home ice in the playoffs last year. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying it wouldn't be nice, right? Sure, it would be nice to have home ice. It'd be nice for the Sharks to win the division. What matters is if the Sharks are actually a good hockey team once they get to the playoffs. And I'm not 100% convinced that they're, that beyond a good team, a great team, obviously, is what you really need. And the reason that I've been, feeling pretty good about the Sharks' chances this year hasn't really ever been because I think they're a super great team. It's because I don't really think there is a super great team in the NHL this year.
Yeah,
I think that's borne out down the stretch. The Wild have lost 5 games in a row before tonight. And listen, that's what I've been saying this entire season is that
the Blackhawks, after struggling, have won 5 straight.
Right.
It's not it could be that, they're experienced and they're turning it on at the right time. But I think more likely than not, it's because all of these teams, even a team like Nashville, I think the top 5 teams in the West are all pretty even and can beat each other in any given 7-game series. I think when you start to get the drop off and I consider Nashville in that top 5. I'm basically saying San Jose. I'll throw Edmonton in there, Chicago, St. Louis. But then after that, I think there's a pretty, I don't want to say steep drop off, but I don't think Anaheim is as good as their point totals would indicate.
No, they're not.
Calgary is probably more concerning and more threatening than Anaheim.
They absolutely are.
And who else is going to make the playoffs is it St. Louis?
I mean, Minnesota's up there, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I'm saying Minnesota, San Jose, Chicago, Nashville. That's my top 4. And then throw Edmonton in there. But even Edmonton, I think, is the weak link of those 5. But I think those 5, I don't think it's not going to be anybody else. And those 5 can, depending on the stretch, depending on what's going on, and those 5 can beat, the other one in a 7-game series. Any of those teams can beat each other in a 7-game series. I think it's way more wide open than, say, the East, where I think you really have 2 great teams. You have Pittsburgh, you have Washington.
And even those teams have deep flaws in that they're both, one, extremely injury prone, and that listen, the Capitals are a good team, but I think that even structurally they can be beaten.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I think that's what happens in a salary cap league. You have parity.
That's just the way it goes.
So I don't think I think the Sharks are. And that's what I thought last year too, when going into the season, if the Sharks had made some of their changes, I thought, okay, I wasn't expecting them to make a cup run, but I think we all thought they'd be a playoff team because we looked at the rest of the division and the rest of the conference and we said, okay, there's, Chicago's very good, but there's not a lot of, there's room for opportunity. And I still think there's that room for opportunity, even amidst the struggles they've had lately. I think some of it is injuries. I think their depth is being tested, even though they do, they have good depth they can rely upon. And there's some guys that maybe they should give a call up that, to change things up after these 4 losses. But I think the Carlson absence has really hurt them, even though I think Myers filled in very well on the 4th line in his place. I just think bumping Sorensen up to the top 9 isn't what they needed. And that's, Hansen's absence as well hurting them. Because, with Hansen, I think his big thing is everybody kind of slotted into the proper role with him in the lineup, with him and, and I think even then there were still some issues. I wrote about Jonas Donskoi's struggles, and I think a player like Donskoi, and as well as I think he played with Hurdle tonight, I just don't think either of them are finishing, like, are scoring goals at a high enough rate this year where I think you can warrant playing them together. They're great. They're great puck possession duo for sure, but I'd rather see Donskoi playing with a finisher like Marleau or a finisher like Couture. But then you have Marleau and Couture on the same line, and it creates that kind of stacking problem. But I digressed. But Hansen being in the lineup, even with those struggles, on paper that puts everyone in their proper spots. He goes down, and then Carlson goes down. Now you have Meyer filling on the fourth line. Okay, he can fill in for Carlson, but Sorensen then has to jump up. And I think Sorensen had some good moments tonight, but I don't think he's a top 9 player. I think he's he can, as needed, move up into your top 9, but not against a good team like Minnesota. Like, he's a fourth line player in the NHL, which isn't a bad thing. It's just like I think they asked a little too much of him tonight.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the time on ice now. At 5-on-5 play tonight, like, Pavelski got the most time on ice. Joel Ward got the second most time on ice. Right. Then Marleau. Listen, I think as much as a early middle of the season, I was talking about how great a player Joel Ward is. He is a great player. That is way too much time on ice for Joel Ward to be playing. It does not make sense.
Second on the team and even strength ice time.
He should be playing on the third line. He is a great third line player. Moving him to the second line is a baffling decision, and I do not understand what prompted this to happen. I mean, I do. It's that Pete DeBoer is the exact wrong coach to coach a team that signed Mikhail Bodker. And that was my biggest concern when the Sharks signed Mikhail Bodker, is that this was going to be like oh, hey, man, what would be a great idea? We have Henrik Sedin on our team. Let's hire Torts to coach the team. Wasn't that going to work out great? No, it's not going to work out.
I wouldn't go that far, but I think
it's in the exact same vein, though. It's the kind of player that it's not a good system.
Varying degrees, yes, but I would not say it's to the same degree.
It doesn't make any sense that it's a player that has played very well in terms of possession, that creates scoring chances on the second line, and then for literally no reason continues to be the guy that continues to be the fall guy on this team.
Right, even though Joel Ward is also not scoring, even though Jonas Donskoi is also not scoring. Yeah, I agree.
It's bullshit. That's what it is. It is legitimately stupid. There's no excuse for it because they have similar possession numbers. They have Bodker has better scoring chance numbers. They have the same scoring numbers, and the Ward Couture that line is bad. It's been bad.
Yeah, it's not a great combo.
It's always been bad. It was bad last year. It's been bad this year. The numbers are there, and it doesn't look good together. I mean, listen, this isn't just like a numbers thing. I mean, just the eye test is not good.
Right. Last year, Donskoi was on that line with, Marleau was playing the third line role. But really, if they're scoring outputs this year, and I haven't looked at Marleau's possession numbers too much in depth, but it's almost as if Marleau and Donskoi have kind of swapped roles. Based on, at least, from the postseason now in this regular season, where Marleau's the guy penciled into the top 6 on that second line wing and is sticking with he's not penciled into the second line wing because he played with the captains tonight.
Right, that's right.
He spent a lot of time with Couture.
That's why I was saying earlier that exactly.
So I think, and I think it's just, again, it goes back to it. It's hard because you have a lot of guys that aren't scoring a lot of goals right now. So you keep Pavelski with, I just think it comes for the Sharks. Even though Marleau has scored, maybe you do consider moving him into a third line role and moving Donskoi up to play with. If you want Ward with Couture, then put Donskoi there. Cause this is it. Kevin Kurz wrote about it today. They need more from their depth scorers. I think they only have 4 guys in double digits, and that's it. And they're all the 4 guys that have gotten to 20 goals. Well, 2 of them play with each other all the time. Couture and Marleau have played with each other mostly, or it's Marleau and Pavelski on the same line. So I think, knowing some of those struggles, I think they need to maybe sprinkle some of the scoring like elsewhere throughout the lineup, because otherwise they're getting
too much right now. Yeah.
Otherwise they're going to be too top heavy.
So I think so. Right now, I'm looking. This is on Corsica, which I'm putting in the chat. So hi to the people who are in the chat. I'm putting this link in here, Bloop. And you can go ahead and go to that link, and then you use the drop down menus. This is a pretty good site. So looking at 5-on-5, you score adjust the numbers. Ward, Couture, and Bodker spent most of the time. They're a lot of time together tonight, which is also a very bad line.
Yeah.
They were a -5 tonight. Pavelski, Thornton, and Marlowe were unsurprisingly very good together because you put three of your best players together, and
and the guys who have played together each of the last 10
lot.
years.
Right. It's a power play line basically. Tierney, Haley, and Meyer were great together. We were talking about this before the show. That is an extremely good line because for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons I think is that Meyer is way too good a player to be playing on the fourth line. Just in terms of his possession ability. I think the other reason is that Haley has great chemistry with guys like this. He's just a really good fit with these kinds of players. I think for the similar reason that Haley was a great fit with Carpenter, he just fits with this kind of player because he has really good hockey IQ. He just knows where to go on the ice. When there are other guys that are able to go do kind of the heavier puck possession work, he's like, it just clicks for him. He's like, okay, I know what to do. I know where to go. Honestly, it feels to me like you could put Michael Haley up with Joe Pavelski and Joe Thornton, and he would know what to do. They would put up good possession numbers.
I think, and I think that's the strength that they like about Haley is, and it's kind of the cliche, but I think it is true in his sense that he does play within himself. He doesn't, again, I'm cliched territory, but he doesn't try to do too much. But I mean that as a compliment here, in that he knows his limitations, but he's also a smart enough player that he knows, okay, I know where I have to be playing with these guys. LeBanc and Meyer play a little different games, but they both like to have the puck on their stick, and they both like to, possess the puck. And Haley's played great with both of them. Like you mentioned, he played with Ryan Carpenter and Kevin LeBanc.
Which was a great line. That was a
great line together.
They were together. Their possession numbers were insane.
And I think what we've learned about Haley is playing with the right kind of players. Sorensen almost as a lesser version of Timo Meyer.
Yeah,
I think they've played well together with Tierney.
I think it's because the reason he is fit with the Sharks is because he fits their system in terms of he's a good puck retrieval guy. And that's why I say that he could fit with the Joes, because he's like he fits that.
They need a puck retrieval guy. Yeah,
he will
take them up to the top line, but
he would go
get spot shift here and there. He wouldn't look out of place.
He would go get the puck to the puck guys, and then and then go harass guys the rest of the shift and get to the front of the net.
Where I think he hasn't been a good fit is, personally, in my opinion, I don't think he's a good fit centering his own line.
No, I don't think
he's been a fit with O'Regan, because O'Regan got bumped to the fourth last night, and Tierney got bumped to the third. Tierney was out last night. Excuse me. Who centered the third line then? No, they dropped Hurdle back down from the top line.
Where Haley really gets lost is when he gets stuck in his defensive zone. And I think where he really gets stuck in that situation in particular is at two places. One, especially when he's centering his own line, and when he gets stuck in the defensive zone, because then he's being asked to do too much because he's asked to quarterback it. And even to a lesser extent when Tierney's centering it, because Tierney is not good defensively. Right. Because Tierney has almost no idea what he's doing quarterbacking the defensive zone. So when he's back there with like Paul Martin or somebody to organize, but when they're back there with the third line, third pairing, when it's Schlemko back there, it's okay. But I've definitely noticed when Schlemko was out, and you would see a shift where it was DeMello and Dylan and the fourth line back there. That's where it started to get a little bit.
And it's him. He needs to play like everybody in the lineup needs to play with the right kind of players. And I think he can succeed with Tierney, and he did tonight, but they need the right kind of way. They need Kevin LeBanc. They need Timo Meyer, or at worst, they need, Marcus Sorensen. Again, I think another area where they're missing Melker Karlsson. He's been a pretty good fit with them, and he's another guy who's got good hockey IQ and retrieves pucks. And he and Haley have a nice. They play well off of each other. Haley's set up Karlsson for a couple pretty nice goals here this season. So, we'll see. I think in the right situation, he could. He's a valuable fourth line component. Whether or not they should ice him in a playoff series, I think I'm not sure. I think if you had asked me before the season, I probably would have said no. But I think, again, if he's in the right situation, I think you can use him in a playoff series and he can be an effective fourth liner.
All right, well, I'm not going to go that far, but that's fine. I think it depends on what their injury situation is. I think that there's a way they can do it if they have to. I think it just depends on what.
That's what I'm.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
if this is persisting, like
right, if everybody else on the Sharks is going to keep dying like this, and they have to, I think that there is absolutely a way that they can do it and not be toast as far as the rest of the way goes. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Again, like I said, I think that the biggest concern again is still, even once guys come back healthy, is still that Vlasic Braun pairing, which has struggled. I think as they've gotten, what it seems like has happened.
Are you seeing it on the eye test? Because I don't know, I didn't really feel like they've. I don't know. I haven't noticed it. That's one where I think the numbers have not matched my eye test. Again, that probably means my eyes are wrong.
No, I have absolutely noticed. What I've noticed, here's what I've noticed is that they've gotten tough. They've gotten more time with tougher assignments recently. Because what I noticed first is that Pete DeBoer is giving the Braun or the Burns Martin easier assignments.
Yeah,
and listen, that means that somebody else is getting tougher assignments, right? That has to be made up in the aggregate somewhere. Because you'll remember, I commented to you. I don't remember when this was. I don't even remember if this was on the podcast. That pairing was getting more time with the fourth line recently. That was just something I noticed. Maybe they were just doing that to either to cover for the fourth line, or maybe that was to generate more offensive opportunities, whatever. Because for a while, that Burns pairing was kind of really the top. What it is in terms of ice time, it is the top unit. But even in terms of just competition, they were basically kind of even. And I think what I've noticed recently is that they're getting easier competition. I think that that's being done to generate more offense, as the offense struggled for a great part of the year. That kind of stopped happening. And I think that Braun and Vlasic have kind of struggled under that pressure. I think that's part of it. And you know what? Honestly, I think the other part too is just that I've noticed that Vlasic and Braun have struggled to. The Vlasic especially just hasn't looked as good this year against top competition. He just has not looked that good against the Connor McDavids and the Johnny Gaudreaus of the world. Hasn't looked as good as he has in the past.
Early in the year, I thought he played well that first game against Calgary. When they lost that game, they outshot them by a lot. I thought he had a nice game then. But yeah, I think
I'm thinking more in like the post All-Star break time.
Right. Yeah, I haven't noticed a steep drop off over the course of the season, but I think he is not playing as well. I would agree. But what is the solution, do you think? Give them easier minutes, start to load up, because I was looking at the Sharks' defensive minutes, and frankly, their roster allocation for this year in terms of minutes has been fascinating. Burns' ice time is down. He's got, he's still got as many points as he does. His ice time, last I checked, was down by about a minute. Just about everybody's ice time was down, 30 seconds to a minute. The big increases, of course, being Schlemko and DeMello from what the Sharks were using in those spots last year. The Sharks used Polak a little more than they used Schlemko, but that time on ice is a little misleading because Vlasic was hurt down the stretch last year, and they had Polak basically playing top 4 minutes, DeMello playing bottom pairing. But DeMello's minutes are even up like almost 2 or 3 minutes over last year. So it's kind of fascinating to see how the ice time usage has been. But what do you think the solution is? Just they have to expect more from them? Do they ease up, defend the tough assignments? Do you start to give some maybe a little tougher assignments to Brent Burns and Paul Martin, or maybe to David Schlemko and Brendan Dillon, or do you just mix up the pairings?
I think you lose. I think that's what happens. There's nothing you can do about it. Listen, if Vlasic is becoming a worse player, you're going to lose.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. I don't think that there really is a solution here. I mean, because I think if the problem is Justin Braun, then okay, maybe you can do something about it. Maybe you can mix up the pairings, whatever. If the problem is that Vlasic is declining, and that's not outside the realm of possibility. He's certainly old enough.
Yep.
He's
played a lot of years
old. Played a lot of miles, man. A lot.
And played a lot of games.
It is not far-fetched that he
last
is
2 years
declining.
too, he's played a lot of games. So, and I wonder,
It wouldn't.
I wonder if it's just a product of deep playoff run last year. The corollary, of course, you could argue is Brent Burns, but deep playoff run last year, played for Team Canada this year. Like he's not played as much probably as he's played over this last stretch, and neither has Burns. And I think guys are dealing with it at varying degrees. But I wonder if it's if the Sharks are bounced early and they have a short off season or a long off season, and Vlasic continues to struggle next year, then I think you really have to start being concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's legitimately, something that you have to at least be thinking about.
Yeah.
I don't know, and there's not really anything you can do about it. I think that maybe you can try to bolster that pairing. Obviously, I mean, you can try to put Burns and Vlasic together.
They have played. The two of them have played well together. I looked at their with or without use. They've been, I mean, as expected, they've been awesome together in terms of puck possession. And Braun and Martin haven't been too bad either. I wonder if I wonder if that could be a solution where they think, okay, if we need to get Vlasic going, so to speak, let's play him with Burns, stack that top pairing, and see how Martin and Braun do together. But at that point, I'd almost rather have them mix up all three pairings at that point.
They move Schlemko up.
And either move Schlemko up or,
certainly don't move Dylan up.
Well, I don't think you could play. I think Dylan would probably have to play with Braun or Schlemko. Dylan's looked better on his offside, so maybe he could play with his Martin. But I don't want to break up that third pairing too much either. And again, if Vlasic struggles too, and I don't think it can be dismissed entirely out of hand. Maybe that's a reason to dress 7 defensemen then, especially if your depth scoring hasn't been great. There's creative ways to use 7 defensemen. John Cooper rode 7 defensemen when the Lightning made the Stanley Cup final. Granted, they had Victor Hedman and Steven Stamkos, but I don't.
The answer is to move Brent Burns back to forward. That's what the hockey writer said. That the Sharks.
Yeah, I saw that article.
No, maybe probably not.
Interesting idea. No, I think he's fine. So that's probably a big concern. We talked a little bit too about Thornton's decline. I think that's
more concerning for the Sharks at this point, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he's looked. Again, it's really
He has not looked good
lately. I think he has.
No, he looked bad.
Well, I just disagree then, because I think he's been good since the break. Personally, since the bye week, I think
he looks.
I don't think he was great tonight, but I thought he was better tonight than last night.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
I guess it depends. It's a varying degrees. I think, to me, I guess here's my thing. I guess it's not. He doesn't look bad. He just looks definitely very much like he shouldn't maybe not be on the top line anymore.
Yeah, his age is starting to catch up to him.
And I think it's probably worth talking about whether or not he should be on the top line anymore.
Yeah. Would you want to use Couture there then?
I mean, I think it's at least worth a discussion point.
Well, I mean, see, can your usage of the players change, or can it not change, and you still call it Couture centering the top line? Because I think you and I both agree Thornton shouldn't be necessarily handling the tough defensive assignments.
Right. I don't know if he necessarily is anyway, though, so it doesn't matter.
Agreed. So then how much changes, really?
Right.
Do you bump Hurdle? I think the real question is, do you bump Hurdle up to a second line center type role, which we haven't seen him really do this year. He played it quite a bit last year.
I don't know if he can actually handle it at this point, though, given how much time he's missed. I think maybe if he plays a full season, maybe he's more ready for it. But at this point, I don't know if he's actually ready for it.
Next season is
right.
You run Thornton in a sheltered third scoring line. You put Couture with Pavelski.
If anything, I think, I guess, if there's a silver lining to this definitely helps the Sharks as far as contract negotiation goes, because I think Jumbo's fucking dreaming if he thinks he's getting that sweet 3-year deal that the idiot was shooting his mouth about in the press during the season.
If he was a free agent last year, he probably would have gotten it.
Oh, absolutely. As a point-a-game player, he's probably getting that big deal. This year, sorry, buddy. Maybe you'll get a 2-year deal.
He's a guy who I think you could say, okay, number of games, like especially at his age, like that's caught up to him. But I think it's what I think about Thornton has really been what I thought about the Sharks like this whole season. Like they've looked good, they're just not like they're not scoring as much. I think he's definitely not looked as good as he did last year, but there have been moments.
My thing though is that it's not really his passing is not as good. His passes have not been getting through,
That's fair.
And they've been behind players.
But I do think he's been sharper since the break, since the bye week.
I think though that at the same time, I think that you've seen that this compressed schedule has really hurt him, and that's going to hurt him in the playoffs too, which is where it matters anyway.
Yeah,
I don't care about what. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, Joe Thornton could sit out for 40 games next year, play the second half of the season, then come show up in the playoffs, and that would be fine with me because he'd be better rested. I don't really care about what he does in the regular season. It's definitely. You'll notice it based on the way that the way I've noticed it almost more is the way Jamie Baker tries to cape for Thornton or Randy Honda. It's like, Joe Pavelski wasn't able to catch that pass from Thornton. It's like, well, no shit, Randy. The pass went off the back of his skate blade.
Right.
Joe Pavelski's good. He's not that good.
He's definitely declined. There's been a decrease in sharpness.
Which is listen, it doesn't matter. He's still
but he's old. Like good. It happens. You just got to prepare for it.
I'm not trying to make it like it's this big deal. Like that's literally the way it works. He's still like a really good player, but it's like, listen, it's still happening. But my point is just that it really matters for the Sharks.
They expected him to be closer to the point of game player he was.
It's not even like an expectation. It has to happen.
No, I'm saying that this year they did not expect him to decline at the rate he has. I'm saying that they expected him to be more along the lines of the player he was last season.
Wow.
Which is, again, not wise, but they figured, he's 36. He just scored that many points. Like,
that was
I didn't expect it to come this quickly. I thought it would be more gradual. I did not expect it to be this big of a drop-off this soon.
I guess I thought last year was the aberration, so – I guess
fair. That's fair.
Maybe I was cynical.
I had thought more that I think last year he benefited from a really high shooting percentage. I had felt more that 2014-15 was more like, okay, he's not gonna reach that low anytime soon. But again, player that age, and like Marlowe this year, who's succeeding so well, and that's probably going to end up having been the aberration year, almost certainly.
Almost certainly. And so, let's start setting that expectation now because, listen, kids, it's not happening again, all right? It's fun. We're having fun. It's good to have fun.
I don't think he's going to score 25 goals next year, no.
No, he's not.
He's probably going to score 15 to 20.
Which would still be pretty darn good.
Which would be awesome. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
So, I think, that's the thing. The thing with Thornton's decline is that I think they still have the pieces to kind of mitigate some of that decrease you've seen this year. If Hertl can play a larger role, and if their depth players can, because if the Sharks' top guys can play even with some of these teams' top pairings, or top lines like they did in the playoffs last year, and they can get like similar contributions from their depth, they're going to be okay. But, that hasn't happened so far.
I think the problem is they're not really trusting the better pieces of their depth. And I guess that's my biggest criticism of Pete DeBoer this year is that he's trusting the wrong depth players.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And there's not been enough patience with the young players really either. Agreed. I think that I know you can point to Kevin LeBanc having a long scoring slump, to Timo Meier not scoring enough, but I think that you're ignoring then the pieces of what they're doing, of their games that are working, while also ignoring the pieces, the long scoring slumps of guys like, Michael Haley, and I don't want to pick on the guy, or even like Marcus or Chris Tierney or Marcus Sorensen, guys that really aren't scoring either, or where,
Sorensen's got 2 goals in his last 7 games or something. He scored those 2.
Right. And listen, like those guys aren't really doing anything. I think Tierney is legitimately fine. Like he's fine, whatever. Right. But I don't really think Sorensen is anything special. Haley is nothing special. And those guys don't have the upside. So you're not getting that benefit that you have by playing a guy like that.
And that's what you need with your stars not playing as well. You need to then sprinkle your bottom 6 with guys who have upside. Like, what you're getting from Michael Haley. You're getting from Marcus Sorensen. Frankly, I think DeBoer's usage of them would maybe be a little more defensible if some of their bigger players were not struggling the way they are. Yes, they're getting goals from those four guys. But if they were getting more contributions from Thornton at the top of the lineup and even down to Hurdle and Donskoy, it'd be like, okay, like, it's not a great fourth line, but it's getting the job done. Now they don't have a margin for error where they can play a guy like that who doesn't really have an ability to score that's proven.
Well, you remember when this happened, when we did this exact same thing, was during the playoffs.
Yeah.
What I remember is when people said that, people asked me, when are we going to talk about the Roman Polak pairing? I said, when the Sharks start losing.
Yeah.
Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals, I said, okay. Before that, I said, it's time to talk about the Roman Polak pairing.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Like, that's when people are willing to listen to me say, hey, guys, guess what? These depth players that suck when there are better options, that's when people are finally willing to listen. Because listen, that's the way it works.
They need to take. You don't have the same margin for error that you had with everybody firing on all cylinders. They're not, and you need to inject I think it's fair to say I'd say my bold prediction for this podcast. We're gonna get one of Meyer or LeBanc up with the Sharks by playoff time. Like one of them will be penciled in to be in the lineup in the Sharks playoff run, I think.
Yep.
Even when fully healthy. I mean, frankly, I think the way Myers played, we were talking about it before the show, how great he was in possession last night. Once Carlson's back, you're probably going to scratch Sorensen. And then once Hansen's back, you're probably going to scratch Haley, if what's happened the last two games keeps up.
Continues happening.
Yeah. And it has to continue. And again, that's on Meyer.
I mean, right. And that's his job.
I think he looks better than he did when he got first called up.
And in my opinion, looked pretty good. So if points start to come with that play, especially, although granted he's playing on the fourth line now, so I think it's less imperative that the points come with that play. I think the expectations are different for the fourth line,
and that's why I think Michael Haley and Marcus Sorensen have a seemingly longer leash than Kevin LeBanc or Timo Meyer in a top five.
Stupid.
Agreed.
For a team that wants to win a Stanley Cup.
There's the adjusting of expectations and the view that, as much as they want to roll four lines, that doesn't necessarily mean they want four lines that can score. They just want to be able to play each for 10 minutes. So, yeah, I think it's imperative for them to come to put the right guys in the lineup, given how much some of the top guys and even some of the top parts of their depth have struggled. Bodker, Ward, Donskoy, and I wouldn't say Hurdle because I think he's actually scoring at a rate similar to what he's scored in previous years, playing on at least similar to what he did, because he was about a half a point a game player last year, right? I want to say
Hurdle. Yeah. That's a great question. I'm looking,
and he's right around there this year, I think. So.
Let's see. Yeah, 0.57 last year. He's 0.45 this year. Yeah, people are talking about him like he's regressing this year, and that's because people don't actually know.
But I think what we've seen from Hurdle, it's fine. He's being asked to do different things as the third line center than he is as the top line winger with Joe Thornton. Like those require different skill sets. He's great at both. He's yet to score as much as a center because I don't think he's been and I think that's a bad argument because people say Erik Karlsson or Drew Doughty could score as much as Erik Karlsson if he was asked to, which is like, okay, that's stupid. But
well, no, actually he couldn't.
Yeah,
he literally
that's dumb. But again, I don't think Hurdle. I don't know if the expectation for Hurdle's scoring is the same with him as the third line center in DeBoer's eyes as it is when he's playing on a wing with Joe Thornton. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's the same. He has the same expectations.
Well, he's also playing with much worse players when he's
exactly.
On the third line,
he's putting them in a position to succeed. Hurdle's been the best possession player. He's one of the 5 lowest in terms of on ice shooting percentage. So putting him and Donskoy together is like another reason why I don't think that works is because they are literally 2 of the 5 lowest in on ice shooting percentage. The only way that could be worse is if they put Meyer there, who's also one of the 5 lowest members of the Sharks in terms of on-ice shooting percentage, meaning how the Sharks shoot with them on the ice, not how each of those 3 shoot.
Yep. And again, I think that if you watch Hurdle, you'll come to realize, especially this year, that he's playing fine. The dude's been injured this year, and I think that you got to take that to account.
I think he's taking a step forward as a center.
Yeah, I think so too. And listen, the team knows that. I think that beyond anything else, that's what's most important.
I know he got moved to that top line the other game, but there was on a broadcast there was DeBoer was saying how he was going to pretty much use Hurdle as the third line center for the rest of the season. Like last night in Dallas, they're losing. What does DeBoer do? He doesn't keep Hurdle on the top line. He moves him to center. I think that's ultimately where he views him. That's ultimately where the Sharks view him. That's where they want him. And I don't think he would have moved Hurdle back to that third line center spot last night if he wasn't happy with his growth at the position this year.
Right. Absolutely. He's had great possession numbers with pretty much everyone this year. The only line that group that he hasn't had good possession numbers with was when he played with Donskoy and Bodker, which doesn't surprise me because Bodker's not a good possession player.
Yeah, Bodker's I was looking at those with or without use. He's without him, everyone's got better numbers.
It's not his game, man. He had great numbers with Tierney and Ward, with Meyer and Ward, Marlowe and Carlson, and okay numbers with Thornton and Pavelski. That's actually
Really? Is that his worst line other than with Bodker and Donskoy?
Right. I mean, his worst in Fenwick, and this is scores on and venue adjusted, is 55.7 in Fenwick. Right. His best is 62.61 with Tierney and Ward. That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
He sucks.
Yeah.
What a step back, dude. Ugh. Ready for the.
He did a bit of a scoring drought, though. 5 games without a point. They need.
Yeah, he's in a scoring drought. Yeah, no shit. So is everybody.
So is everybody.
Yeah,
literally the
take a number, baby.
Describe the Sharks this year is they've looked good. They just start scoring. Like that's literally been them.
The good news is that the goaltending has been good. So.
I since that bye week, Martin Jones has played a lot better since Dell's been getting more starts.
Yep.
We much begrudged their usage of Jones early in the season, but this is starting to smack of deliberate that they were like, okay, we're going to get to the bye week, and that's at a similar point as the trade deadline was last year, and we got Reimer, and that's when we're going to ease Jones off, see if he can handle the bigger workload earlier in the season, then as needed, wean him off. And I think that it's right now it's working because I don't think he stopped 24 of 27 shots tonight. Again, one of those you probably want back, but I thought he actually played pretty well. He made a lot of really good saves and ultimately kept the Sharks in the game in the second period for them to tie it. They then went ahead and allowed 2 goals within 15 seconds, of course. But I thought he played pretty well tonight. He was great. He's been great before tonight. Aaron Dell continues to be really good. I imagine Dell will probably start again in Dallas.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I don't think there's any reason not to, right?
Yeah, he's going to start one of those games, whether it's Dallas or Nashville. But I think you start Jones in Nashville because that's against the quote unquote playoff team. But maybe they want to test Dell. But yeah, they've been getting good goaltending, and especially since the bye week, I think Martin Jones has really come on strong, which is encouraging. It's encouraging for the Sharks because a series in which their big guys did not play very well. They got to 6 games because of how well he played. So I'm not expecting him to reach those heights again this postseason. But hey, if he did, that'd be pretty nice.
All right, let's end with 2 positive-ish numbers. One less positive, one very positive.
Do we have questions?
I'll scroll through those after I hit the 2 numbers.
Okay, hit the numbers.
Sharks are 12th in the NHL in goals for per 60 in 5-on-5 scoring. That's a lot better than I thought it would be. Much
a down year for them is middle of the road at even strength. Think about
exactly. That. Much more positive. They are 2nd in the NHL in goals against per 60 at even strength. That is a good sign.
They've been a very good defensive team this year, and that's ultimately.
And that's with some injury problems and thanks to great goaltending.
And Vlasic and Braun, notwithstanding, I think the defense has been really strong this year. And I think, if the 2 of them as a pairing can step it up even a little bit and help produce that, they're going to be even better in the playoffs. And I think arguably have been one of the best defensive teams in the league this year, top to bottom. They have, I'd say, the best defensive group in the league, 1 through 7. Don't at me, but
at me, bitch.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think So that the goals against doesn't surprise me as much as the goals for do.
Yeah, I agree. It's still nice to hear. I needed that good number. If you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat right now. I'm gonna start scrolling through and reading them while that's happening. Let's see. Wow. Okay, hang on. Can I? This isn't a question, but this is a hot take. Do you want me to read this hot take?
Love it.
Okay. This is from our good friend. He's our good friend now. Jack Zimmerman. Bodker doesn't deserve his ice time. Send Sorensen down and bring LeBanc or Carpenter back. I'll note that he is one of 1,000 people this year to spell LeBanc wrong. It's Labanc.
Right.
Please spell this guy's name right.
Agreed. Let's at least get it right next year. We've got the 1 year grace period where it's okay. Frankly, I wish it was LeBanc. I do. I really
do. Oh, I also do. Yeah. I'm just. It's fine when you're not criticizing him, but it pisses me off when somebody like drags the dude and spells his name wrong. It's like, listen, if you're gonna rip a guy, at least respect him enough to get his name wrong. Anyway,
we gotta make a Fear the Finn style guide so people know. The one that bugs me is when people spell Vlasic with 2 S's. So it's
what's the deal with that? He's been here for like 1,000 years.
That's what I get. That's what I'm like. I'm like, okay, guys.
Okay, you just played yourself.
Maybe you just want to type ass. Like maybe that's what. Which
is that like the Freudian kink? Yeah, respect.
Could be.
Do you have any comment on this on this hot take?
Yeah, Bodker hasn't been great. I think he's been. I think he's not played very well of late. I think he's had some stretches this season where he's been really good. Lately, I think this might be one of his lesser stretches. He hasn't been very, and I hate to use the term, but he hasn't been very noticeable. Like he's definitely had stretches where you're like, okay, he's playing very well. He's just not scoring. This feels like he's not playing super well and he's not scoring. I'm not really sure what the solution is.
Fail.
What'd you say?
I feel like he's being put in a position to fail by the coaching staff.
Yeah. So what do you think that putting him in the position to succeed?
I think they had a great line put together with Marleau, Couture, and Bodker that was working very well, and then for no reason they blew it up.
Yeah, I think you got to go back to the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, like I can't fathom why they did not.
Are they a good possession line?
Well, yeah, sure. Couture was on that line. Of course, it was good.
Okay, I can't remember what their numbers were. Yeah, I agree that was a bit of a head scratcher when they broke that line up.
But I mean, like, yeah, his like individual scoring chance numbers are down-ish. But like they're relatively consistent to what they had been for most of the season. Like they're definitely down. Like they were really good. Like
are you looking at his rolling average?
Yeah, his scoring chance numbers. Yeah, his rolling average. Yeah, they're definitely down over the last month or so.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think putting him back with Morrow and Couture,
it just seems like that was the one you finally found a spot.
That was the one that was clicking.
Worked, and it's like, oh hey, by the way, nah.
We talked about Haley's hockey sense and why that's allowed him to fit in with certain players. I think Marleau, Bodker, and Couture's hockey sense allowed them to have a really excellent line. I mean, they made some passes on zone entries, or on odd man rushes that were just like not just the one guy on the wing taking it to the net, but like finding the trailer and then finding the guy with the extra pass. Like they're a very smart line. I think putting them back together would solve a lot of the Sharks' issues. I think Hurdle, Donskoy, Ward is a little more ideal than Couture, Donskoy, Ward, or Couture, Marleau, Ward, depending on what the Sharks have been doing. But yeah, I think I would agree with that. Put them back together. I mean, otherwise, I don't really know what else you can do. I mean, I don't know if you can drop him to the fourth line. Maybe if it's Ryan Carpenter, Kevin LeBanc, and
I think at the same time he still had made some really great plays. I think on the especially last night he had at least one shift on that penalty kill that was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
Oh, him and Burns had one. Like Burns had one pass to him last night that was just like unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, they. I know on that same penalty kill, Bodker had a great play on the penalty kill. And then Burns followed it up on the exact same shift. I think he came onto the ice after Bodker. Bodker kept the puck in the zone. Right. Burns followed it up with a great scoring chance right after that.
So I think
that was one of the best scoring chances in the entire game. So
I think that's probably been one of the areas he's been strongest in is the penalty kill this year, and the penalty kill's been pretty good.
Which go figure.
Yeah, right. The area in terms
we signed him for that. Thank God.
Yeah, the area in terms of systems that you don't necessarily expect to be.
That was the opposite thing we got you for. So good. Yeet.
But yeah, I think putting him with Marlon and Couture back for the playoffs is the best thing they can do. I would agree with you.
Okay. Let's see. We have a good conspiracy theory. Yari suggests that that Vlasic may have been sitting with the quote flu as a way to give him some rest. I based on the that Mark Purdy column the other day, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's probably not the case.
Kurz tweeted before the game. He said he saw, I guess, when he went down to do the pregame scrum with DeBoer, he said Vlasic looked fine in the as much as he could have judged, didn't notice him, the clammy hands. Maybe he licked his palms Ferris Bueller style to get out of the game.
I think of any guy on the Sharks, that is like the last guy in the
Agreed.
world. Oh, who? Okay, wait. Can we guess who is the guy most likely to Ferris Bueller out of a game?
To Ferris, not just specifically like leave, like skip a game, but to Ferris Bueller a game.
Yeah, Brent Burns, right?
Sure. The guy who's most likely to like miss the game to then go tour like whatever city.
A cool city, not Minneapolis, but a better city like Chicago. Right. Let's say Chicago.
That's a good question. That is a really good question. And I don't know if who seems like a guy that would do. I'm probably gonna say like one of the goalies, like.
Oh, that's not bad.
Just because goalies are like odd and like.
But it wouldn't be Martin Jones though. Like, remember, when I was at the All-Star game, like there were like not just me, but like multiple guys were like, "Oh man, so you're back in LA? That's cool. You got to like see anybody or do anything?" Yeah. It's like, no.
Oh. I was just thinking from a goalies are weird perspective, but I don't even know if it would be.
Oh, you know what? No, I can think of a goalie who would do that for sure. Marc-Andre Fleury would absolutely do that.
Yeah, he'd Ferris Bueller.
Like the guy. No, Brizgalov would just be like, "Oh, guys, I'm sick.
I have cough.
Oh, I have cough. I've got the can't play tonight. Adios." And he would just leave.
I think those are both very good answers. On the Sharks, I don't know. I think
Brent Burns would do it.
See, I think he loves playing hockey too much. Like he'd
no, I don't think so.
But he'd do it, and then he'd go play in like a shinny game.
Right. I think that would be that'd be part of his Ferris Buellering,
Right.
It'd be like, an adaptation.
Yeah. Or play in like a roller hockey game or something.
Well, this ended up being a way better answer to this question. We should do more of these. Okay, a suggested contract for Jumbo, which I'm gonna rebuke. 3 years at $4 million for Jumbo, and a similar 3-year Marlowe at $4 to $5 million.
I'd do 4, but I wouldn't do those years. I think if you're the Sharks, you got to max out at 2 years.
Yeah, I do 2 and 4, and if it was 3 years, I mean, it would have to be like $3 million at most.
I think it would even have to be like $2 million a year.
Yeah, me too.
It'd have to be like.
And it couldn't be with a no movement clause.
That's either. The only thing that if I had to, I'd sign. If it had a no move, there's no way they'd have to be able to make that contract.
Yeah, like honestly, at that point, I'd be like, "Listen, guys, we can sign somebody else."
Yeah,
we absolutely can. Promise we can.
Nope. Oh, I do have a. I did read a tweet. I gotta find the source, but someone was saying there was some speculation I read tonight that if the Isles cannot reach an extension with John Tavares before the summer, that they will
trade him.
They will look to move him.
That's bad news.
Should the Sharks go after him in a trade?
No.
Or should they just
wait? Well, that's a problem. I don't want the Isles to move him because I don't want the Sharks to have to give up assets. I just want them to sign him for nothing.
Right.
Well, that's terrible.
But then what if he goes to another team and he loves it? That's the calculated risk you're going to run. It's not like when Carmelo Anthony was going to be a free agent, and then he commandeered a trade to the Knicks when he could have waited 3 months, had all the pieces there, and then gone to an actual good team.
Yeah, what an idiot.
If you got assurances that Tavares wanted to join the Sharks, which again, we're putting the speculative journalist hard hats on, not just the hats. These are right. In case rocks fall on our heads. If you got an assurance that he would sign there in the offseason, you just wait until then. But that's certainly something to look out for.
The Sharks aren't going to get those. Yeah, the Sharks don't have the pieces to get Tavares. So
not anymore, I wouldn't say.
Not ever.
Goldobin would have had to be part of the package. Not saying
Oh.
Goldobin would have put it over the top.
No, he wouldn't
would have
have.
offered like they probably are going to be like, all right, give us Jeremy Waugh, Goldobin, Timo Meyer, and your next first round pick.
Well, yeah. Now the Sharks aren't even going to have a first round pick anymore. Am I right, boys?
Yeah, that's
ladies?
right. That's right. Additional. All the way.
But we'll let him drink out of the Stanley Cup this summer if he wants.
Yes.
So no problem.
Yes.
And he can even help cut Burns' beard if he wants.
Yes.
No problem. So if that doesn't do it, I don't know what will.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe a sign and trade type thing.
Sign and trade the beard?
Ooh, okay. I was thinking Tavares, but yeah, you're right. I don't know, something like that. We could trade pieces of Brent Bird's beard.
Bird's beard for John Tavares. Yeah, that works.
Boom. It's done. Done deal. Those are the questions. Those were the stats. This was the Fear the Fincast. I'm Jake Sundstrom, at Jake Sundstrom on Twitter. That's Marcus P. White, at Marcus P. White. This was the Fear the Fincast. Thanks, guys.